guys, how you going? I've been MIA for the last few days due to having no internet. It's been fixed now. The problem was out on the road. Who would have thought? Mike Williams said homeowners today don't have the experience of paying 18% for a home loan, which like Australia did back in the late 80s, early 90s, I can't remember. They borrowed to the very limit of their ability and now it's coming back to bite them. That 4-bedroom McMansion with the butler's pantry and media room, etc. doesn't seem too good now. Hammer blow to homeowners as the Reserve Bank hikes interest rates by 0.25% in the 9th rise in a row and warns the mortgage squeeze is about to get even worse. Here we go, Australia. The Bradford Files said, lol, Twitter rigged a selection and the former executives now think in hindsight that was a bad idea. Pity they didn't think that before they did it. Matt Taibbi said, I reported in Twitter Files 1 there had been requests from the Trump White House. Then we showed agencies like the FBI sent spreadsheets with thousands of names at a time, and Adam Schiff's office asked that all searches of his office be blocked. But sure, Chrissy Teigen. I don't know what she has to do with anything. Okay, breaking.kim.com. Now this was from yesterday, and I'm sorry I'm a little bit late. You may have already heard it. The US government apparently blew up the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Seymour Hersh, one of the most decorated and impactful journalists of our time, reveals that the US Navy divers planted the explosive in Nord Stream pipelines under the cover of NATO exercises. And I think we kind of guessed that at the time. This is a huge story with two big questions. How will Russia respond to this act of war? And how will the EU respond to being forced into supporting a US proxy war in the UK by no longer having the incentive to negotiate peace to maintain access to cheap Russian gas? Pretty interesting, isn't it? And I shared it again, didn't I? Yep. Okay, Matt Taibbi, I'm just going to read what he said about it. It shouldn't be necessary to do this, but for those wondering, I can confirm this is indeed an article by Seymour Hersh, with whom I've been in touch during the preparation of this article. How America took out the Nord Stream. And you've got this. Libs of TikTok said, you mean to tell me this guy is mad that I'm still on Twitter? What a compliment. Yoel Roth said, can high school students ever meaningfully consent to sex with their teachers? And Daily Wire said, AOC, are you familiar with her account, Libs of TikTok? Oh, yeah, this was in this stupid, when they were all being taken to court the other day. Let's have a look. What does she say? Let's have a listen. Silly woman.
For bias against right wing on Twitter. Additionally, Ms. Navaroli, are you familiar with the account Libs of TikTok?
I have heard of it from the news, yes.
Mr. Roth, are you familiar with this account?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Are you aware that from August 11th to August 16th, that account posted false information about Boston Children's Hospital, claiming that they were providing hysterectomies to children?
Yes, I am aware of that and other claims from the account.
And are you aware that this lie was then circulated by other prominent far-right influencers?
Yes.
And are you aware that all these claims, which I have reiterated were false, culminated in a real-life harassment and ultimately a bomb threat to the Boston Children's Hospital?
Yes, I am aware.
And this account is still on that platform today, isn't it?
Regrettably, yes, it is.
Despite inspiring a bomb threat due to the right-wing incitement of violence
Oh, BS. Blow it out your rear end, love.
against trans Americans in this country, because they cannot let go of this obsession with fixating violence and inciting violence against trans and LGBT people, in addition to immigrants, in addition to women of color. This is a party that cannot pick on anyone their own side.
So not agreeing is violence now, I suppose.
And they are trying to co-opt an entire social media platform and use the power of this committee and of Congress in order to pursue a political agenda. I yield back.
It's all theatre. Oh dear. Yep, no false information was posted though. and they didn't incite anything. JW said, who thinks Aboriginals should have to prove it with DNA? I think so, honestly, in Australia, because everyone's claiming to be Aboriginal. Anyway, Liz Churchill said Bill Gates just admitted on video it's okay for him to fly on his private jet while preaching about climate change because he's part of the solution, while projecting we are the problem. Who elected him again? I'd like to know that too. Bernie's tweet said Bill Gates, because he's so rich, he's allowed to fly in his private jets whenever he wants, or wherever he wants, according to him. Only the rich doing it for the good of mankind aren't forced to follow the rules. This is a new equity you're being asked to swallow. Let's have a little listen.
What do you say to the charge that if you are a climate change campaigner, but you also travel around the world on a private jet, you're a hypocrite?
Well, I buy the gold standard of funding Climeworks to do direct air capture that far exceeds my family's carbon footprint. And I spend billions of dollars on climate innovation. So, you know, should I stay at home and not come to Kenya and learn about farming and malaria? Anyway, I mean, I'm comfortable with the idea that not only am I not part of the problem by paying for the offsets, but also through the billions that my Breakthrough Energy group is spending, that I'm part of the solution.
Oh, BS, mate. BS again, right? What an idiot. Word salad to try and make himself look carbon offset. He buys carbon offsets. Whoop-de-freaking do. Like, seriously? That's just a money laundering situation. So, it's word salad, okay? That's all it is. That's what I think, and I'm sticking to that. The Babylon Bee said Liberals raise concerns about a count that's making them look bad just by sharing their actual words. But it's true. The Babylon Bee is a satire website, but that is actually true. Enough is enough, said proud Aboriginal man. Apparently not. It seems his mother, Auntie Viv Mayor, Aboriginal elder, had no Aboriginal ancestors, making her son an embarrassed white man. Okay, the South Australian government, Kiam Mayor, has no Aboriginal in him. See what I mean? Dark Emu exposed. That was the Bruce Pascoe, another fake Aboriginal. Wow. Isn't that called, what is it called? When you're trying to be something you're not? A different race? What's it called? A cultural appropriation or something, isn't it? Why aren't these people being held to account? Lauren Boebert said, reminder, less than 10% of Biden's infrastructure bill went to real infrastructure like roads and bridges. Can you tell? Because, I mean, here in Australia, I'm sure we've got the same kind of thing going on, but our roads are shocking. Okay. Thomas Massey said, enter the country illegally. US policy is no vaccine, no problem, but try to fly here legally, and you'll be stopped if you're not vaxxed. What an insane policy. The House will vote today to lift the mandate and end this illogical policy. Now, when was this? Yesterday or today? Yesterday. Hopefully they get it through. Okay, the Gateway pundit said Matt Gaetz given seat on new House Committee on Weaponisation of Government. Good stuff. Okay, what do we got? Rep Matt Gaetz of Florida has been given a seat on the new House Committee of the Weaponisation of Government. Rep Jim Jordan of Ohio is chairing the committee, which will look into abuses of government for political purposes, something which Democrats have engaged in repeatedly in recent years. Democrats have criticised the creation of the committee for obvious reasons. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy has quietly appointed Rep Matt Gaetz, who led the unsuccessful push to derail McCarthy's bid for Speaker, to the Select Committee investigating the so-called weaponisation of federal government. There was no announcement of Gaetz' appointment by either McCarthy or Rep Jim Jordan, who chairs both the Judiciary Committee and the Weaponisation Subcommittee. Instead, McCarthy's appointments to the special committee, including Gaetz, were read into the congressional record a week ago and only noticed by reporters on Tuesday. Gaetz, who had been under FBI investigation of allegations of underage sex trafficking, was not part of the original slate of names McCarthy rolled out for the panel 2 weeks ago. According to the Select Panel's roster on its website, Gates replaced Rep. Chip Roy of Texas, one of the GOP holdouts who helped broker a deal with McCarthy in last month's fight over the Speaker's gavel. A member of the weaponization panel said Roy asked for the change because he will serve on 3 demanding committees, Judiciary, Budget and Rules, and has a young family at home. Panel members were told the special committee will sometimes meet late on fly-out day and require more time in Washington. Note how NBC News describes the committee in this tweet's so-called weaponization of government. Yeah, they write so-called. Yep, okay. Gates will be an excellent addition to this committee. I think so. He's got some good ideas going on. Let's see what happens, hey? DC Drano said Joe Biden just introduced the parents of Tyree Nichols, a black man beaten, and they took his life taken by black police officers in a Democrat city with a Democrat mayor, Democrat police chief, Democrat city council, and Democrat congressman. Wow. Outside looking in said 30-year-old niece having an anxiety attack on the weekend over not knowing if the LBRY is raising interest rates on their $1 million mortgage. As a woke lefty Labor voter, she hasn't calmed when I told her that Labor heroes, Hawke and Keating, drove rates to 17.5%. Oh, they did. Colin Rugg said, breaking, Rep. Clay Higgins just told former Twitter executives to get ready to be arrested for interfering in their selection. Lock them up. Rep. Higgins tells Twitter executives to prepare to be arrested for interference. That's good. More good news. It's coming. Okay, here now over to Ireland. Steve Malloy said Ireland to require farmers to reduce cattle herds by 1/3 by 2030 to save the planet. Farmers to reduce carbon footprint through bankruptcy. Don't do it. Farmers, please listen. Don't listen to don't listen to these insane people. Not this person, I mean the people who are saying, you know, to save the planet. Claus Heading said, or Claus Shedding, I don't know how to say that. Anyway, question. Why is it that COVID-19 hardly exists in Africa with no vaccine, no testing, no overflowing hospitals, etc., etc.? Now think. I know you can do it. Yeah, a couple of the medications that weren't allowed are quite rife in Africa. Let me give you a hint quoted by a politician from Nepal. We don't have it here, we simply cannot afford it. True quote, by the way. Yeah, they're not shutting down their society because of it either. Okay, Danny Q said, I hope he sends them all bankrupt financially. They're both already morally bankrupt. And this is in Australia, with Bruce Lerman suing Channel 10 and News.com for defamation over Lisa Wilkinson's interview with Brittany Higgins on The Project. And this is Brittany Higgins' who is it? Kind of, I don't know, Stormy Daniels, some shit, I don't know. On The Project, an article airing her Parliament House rape claim. Okay? So they're both getting sued. And Channel 10 and News, I hope he sends them bankrupt too. DM said this actually made me laugh out loud. Laugh out now. Make no mistake, if you try anything to raise the cost of friction jibs, I'll veto it. Okay, let's listen to Biden having another attack of I can't talk anymore.
Make no mistake, if you try anything to raise the cost of precision jobs, I will veto it.
How did Kamala understand that? To get up and applaud, standing ovation? Okay, this one, disgusting, more info in comments. Cat Ranch Dream, nice name. This is just pure evil. In 1996, Pfizer administrators used, administrators? Okay, I don't know. Used an experimental drug called Trovan on 200 innocent Nigerian children without informing their parents or getting parents' consent. 11 died, while others suffered from brain damage, organ failure, and paralysis. Oh, the poor kids. Not the kids. What are they? Oh my goodness. Well, that's part of their crimes. They've done a lot of crime. Okay. If you're a doctor or in the medical field and see a sudden increase in all these problems here, blood clots, heart attacks, strokes, while knowing the common factor but pretending that you don't know what's going on, please retire for the greater good. Seriously. Or stick around for Nuremberg 2.0, says Marie. Yeah, I can't wait for that. All these, sorry, but idiot doctors who did not do, look, there are a lot of good doctors who do their research, who know, but the idiot ones who wouldn't. Major Buckup said, hot take, F and B. Okay. Daisy May said, Tanya Plibersek has blocked billionaire Clive Palmer's proposed coal mine in the first ever use of federal environment laws to reject a coal project. They shouldn't be allowed, honestly. Matt Taibbi said, additional note on Baker, he argued the Hunter Biden laptop material, which was real, might be replete with complete fabrications. He was one of the loudest among the Twitter executives, arguing the side of continuing to block the New York Post article. Jim Baker said, one additional comment, I've seen some reliable cybersecurity folks questioning the authenticity of the emails in another way, because Jim Baker was in there saying he didn't do this, i.e. that there's no metadata pertaining to them that has been released and the formatting looks like there could be complete fabrications. Justin, Twitter General Counsel Jim Baker, previously of the FBI, says there's simply no there in terms of how he handled the Hunter Biden laptop. Yeah, I'm sure. He's full of, you know what. Indeed, documents that Twitter has disclosed publicly reflect that I urge caution with respect to the matter and noted we need more information to fully assess what was going on to decide what to do. Hardly a surprising piece of advice from a corporate lawyer. Moreover, I'm aware of no unlawful collusion with or direct from any government agency or political campaign on how Twitter should have handled the Hunter Biden laptop situation. There are a lot of the public that disagree with you. Colin Rugg said, breaking, Lauren Boebert catches Yoel Roth in the lie after he denied being involved with the suspension of her Twitter account. What happens to people who lie under oath? Very good question. I'd like to know. Here we go. She traps Yoel Roth, gets him to lie. That's what they say. Do we have any video of it? Hang on one sec.
Did you shadow ban my account? Yes or no?
Again, not to the best of my recollection.
So the answer is, Mr. Roth, yes, you did. I found out last night from Twitter.
No, I'm having a problem. Okay, I've just clicked on the actual tweet to see if I can make it play. Let's see.
Did you shadow ban my account? Yes or no?
Again, not to the best of my recollection.
So the answer is, Mr. Roth, yes, you did.
You know when they say not to the best of my recollection? If you were serious, if you really hadn't done it, you'd just say no, but they don't do that. They always say not to the best of my recollection. But anyway, let's continue.
Found out last night from Twitter staff that you suppressed my account for this tweet. It's a freaking joke about Hillary Clinton being angry that she couldn't rig her election. It's a joke, but in response, being the sinister overlords that you all are, you placed a 90-day account filter so I could not be found. And now we see here that Twitter staff said the visibility filter on my account excluded me from top searches, prevented notifications for non-followers, and much more. This is considered an aggressive visibility filter. You silenced members of Congress from communicating with their constituents. You silenced me from communicating with the American people over a freaking joke. Now, who the hell do you think that you are? Election interference? Yeah, I would. Did you shadow?
Go, love. That's it. Hang on, just let me like that one before I close this. Oh, and go over here. Okay, so we know that's what happened. Okay, so I'm sure a lot of you have seen it, but anyway, they kept going at them too. Quite a few of them were... I've just seen little bits and pieces so far of this questioning. End Wokeness said shutting down the country and then slowing allowing jobs back is not job creation. It's not, but they're going to claim it is. Peter Sweden said 75,000 chickens were killed in a fire in New Zealand, worsening fears of an egg shortage. Why has there been so many fires at food production places recently? The Netherlands want to seize thousands of farms to meet the new 2030 climate goals, and so do Ireland now at the moment. Farmers are being forced to sell their land to the state. This is climate communism in action. Video, farmers in uproar, Netherlands to seize 3,000 so far. Lauren Bobert said, hey Joe, what part of the unity agenda was calling half the country domestic terrorists? Interesting question, isn't it? DC Drano said Biden bought up fentanyl and GOP rep screams, it's your fault. I want to see this whole thing. Tracy Bean said, understand that Vijay Agade now works for CISA. They brought these people in for a reason. They want you to ignore what you see before your very own eyes. They get great jobs when they leave. Jason Robertson said, does anyone else remember when the networks fact-checked the State of the Union in real time for President Trump? Why aren't they doing that anymore? Because Biden lied the whole way through. Kevin McCarthy said, fact-check, Biden has increased the deficit by $800 billion. He claims he's lowered it, but he hasn't. John Ruddock said, not interested in the details of the voice, we know enough already. It seeks special constitutional rights for individuals of a particular race. What is there to think about? Vote no, campaign for no. That's here in Australia. Miranda Devine, Republicans now openly laughing at Biden in the chamber. It was a funny State of the Union, or the bits I seen of it was anyway. Illuminati bot said Bill Gates give billions to charity, but unfortunately the charity is his own tax-exempt foundation which his direct family runs. And that's how they do it. It's how they launder. They do their laundry that way. DC Drano said Joe Biden is now calling on Congress to fund more ineffective jabs just minutes after saying he was going to take on Big Pharma. There you go. There you go. Oh dear. Cat Turd said, laugh my behind off. Miss State of the Union, President tells so many fibs during speech we can't keep count. Oh my goodness, he lied his way through the whole thing. And tried to claim that some of the things Trump did for himself, and yeah, it's just, it's ridiculous, seriously. And then blame Trump for leaving, he said, the economy in a bad state. That's what ours are doing. Our Labor are your Democrats, right, here in Australia, and they're doing the exact same thing. I can watch America and know exactly what's going to happen over here in Australia not long after. Lauren Bobert said the Oversight Committee just got a taste of the Green New Deal. Wow. I think they did. Oh, this is Optus. Okay, this is one of our, internet providers here and phone providers here in Australia. They're backing the Pride and getting ready for Mardi Gras. And how Optus employees are saying yes to diversity. What the hell, Optus? Come on, that was me. Hang on, I shouldn't like my own tweet. What a thickhead. Okay, don't mind me. I love giving myself heaps. Dan likes to think said this is crazy beyond belief in response to Boo Boo, who said net T0. Chopping down trees so that a new sign can be seen warning us you're about to get fined for entering a clean air zone. It's definitely all about the air quality, isn't it? Look. I cut down trees so you can see a sign that warning you you're about to get fined for entering a clean air zone. Oh, come on, man. Oh, this is the biggest joke I've ever seen. Don't forget we're watching a movie, but I'm just going, just trying to keep up with the movie at the moment, you know. Marie said they know this. Those things you cover your face with cause cancer. The root cause of cancer is oxygen deficiency, which creates an acidic state in the human body. Dr. Warburg also discovered that Those cells are anaerobic, do not breathe oxygen, and cannot survive in the presence of high levels of oxygen as found in an alkaline state. All forms of this bad disease have two basic conditions, acidiosis and hypoxia, lack of oxygen, which, masks. Cancerous tissues are acidic, whereas healthy tissues are alkaline. I don't know how true this is, okay, so take it with a grain of salt, please. But yeah, I know, I agree, but just, I'm saying it for YouTube. Okay, Michael Schellenberger says Twitter files congressional hearings. Twitter executives, including former FBI lawyer Jim Baker, who served as Twitter deputy counsel, are about to testify in front of the House Oversight Committee about their handling of the Hunter Biden laptop. Let's go. I'm not going to show the whole thing. And the background is Twitter Files Part 7, which I've already done. Okay, The Spectator Australia said the last time Earth was hit by a solar flare, the age of technology was in its infancy. If the Carrington event happened now, it could reset us back to the Dark Ages or a Mad Max sequel. For those who haven't seen Mad Max, I suggest you do. Okay, nobody living today can remember two significant events that occurred in September 1859. These events were separated by a 24-hour break. Humanity's ever-dependable friend the Sun sent two death rays our way, sometimes referred to in technical jargon as CMEs or coronal mass ejections. Solar storms. Humankind had not noticed, nor had they ever been affected by these regular solar events in the past, as they primarily impact electrical technology. CMEs were hitherto unknown electromagnetic hazard waiting to shake hands with humanity just as soon as we gained a certain level of electrical technical ability. By 1859 we had done so. A fledgling transcontinental electric network fed the telegraph system via large batteries and dynamos linking two continents. North America and Europe were online 24/7, albeit this communication comprised of Morse encoded dashes and dots. The Sun fires CMEs regularly, but only when the Sun's plasma discharge align with Earth do they have any chance of reaching us. When certain types of sunspots near the Sun's surface hit the required peak electromagnetic intensity, they can pose a real threat to humanity and our electrical infrastructure. The 1859 CMEs were almost genuine death rays for a few telegraph operators at the time. The telegraphers continued their transmission as expected, even when everything indicated there was something very unusual happening. These telegraphers did not have to switch on their battery connections to send and receive Morse code, because the telegraphers could not switch them off as their systems hummed and buzzed with overload of uncontrollable electromagnetic energy. Then there were strange auroras brightly illuminating the evening skies, just like curtains of moonlight as far south as the Bahamas. The population of the southern hemisphere was also witnessing purple-hued auroras. It was all very unusual. Unfortunately, several telegraphers received intense electric shocks, while some telegraph buildings caught fire from the surging electrical current. The Sun and Earth had formed a monolithic electrical circuit across the vast empty space between them. There was nothing visible to be seen connecting the Sun with the Earth, but this whole space was alive and pulsing with surging, tantric waves of electricity, all 93 million miles of it. The Sun was doing this to us? Who could have guessed? One resolute contemporary solar observer and astronomer, Richard Carrington, was able to graphically reproduce in real time the sunspot patterns that represented these CMEs. He observed through a specially constructed telescope which transferred the sun's surface image onto a wall, just like a movie or slideshow. Inspired by Richard Carrington's devotion to solar observation, the Royal Astronomical Society named this solar phenomenon in Carrington's honour. The Carrington event of September 1859 became a significant moment in the historical record. Now imagine there's another solar storm in 2029 and more than a dozen Northern Hemisphere cities are affected by a Carrington-like event. This time it's even more catastrophic. Whole cities go offline, one or two indefinitely. Mad Max territory. A man named Carlos lives in a city that avoided most destructive outcomes of this CME. There was a blackout, but for less than 24 hours. What a relief, everyone shouted when the lights turned on again that evening. All the locals, including Carlos and the fellow residents of his condominium, jumped for joy and fisted the air victoriously. Life could continue. Earlier that evening they had congregated in the darkened street to see how everything might proceed if the day-long blackout continued, but also to behold the strange fiery tails of meteors earthward bound. There were also some who said that one had crashed into an apartment block just a few kilometres away, but at this stage no one knew anything for sure. Electronic communication had ceased. All information on this momentous day was coming via word of mouth. The meteors were low-orbit satellites of one sort or another, and the CME had interfered with or simply cut out communication with their Earth-based ground control. Unable to make any telemetric adjustments to maintain their orbit integrity, they became prisoners of Earth's gravity. They headed back down faithfully, just like Brown's cows for milking, to the ever-loving and welcoming open arms of Mother Earth. Streaks of golden fire marked their self-destructive re-entry into the evening skies, their welcome home. After all, this is where they came from decades earlier. Now Carlos was facing another more pressing problem. The medication for his ADHD, his monthly supply, was meant to be delivered that morning. Faced with imminent cold turkey withdrawal from his prescribed Ritalin was an unwelcome but assured outcome. He determined to make a shopping run to the local public charging station takeout restaurant which sold a type of absinthe spirit. He had used it as a substitute if he ever overused his strictly prescribed ADHD supply in the past. The only problem was that when the power grid had gone out during the previous evening, and this meant that his e-scooter was not 100% charged, but his scooter had the super battery that provided extra acceleration if you needed a quick getaway, he set off soon after the city lights returned, hoping that the public charging station restaurant was still operational. He passed the local playground park, which was now a shanty town of tents and makeshift lean-to dwellings, and had become the inferior subsection of the modern city that Carlos lived in. It had been like that for many months. It smelled like it too. Public toilets were unavailable because of security reasons. Discarded trash and human waste was deposited in surprising locations. He pressed on, but noticed he had a menacing and unwelcome-looking company in his vicinity. 3 of them riding e-scooters formed up behind him. The bright, shiny net-zero carbon future promised to us by all those future fakers from the climate alarm ranks had gotten everything wrong, a full 180 degrees out of alignment with reality. Global cooling, not warming, was upon civilization, a mini ice age. Unnoticed back in 1859, the Carrington event had another surprise for humanity and for animal life susceptible to it. The magnetic north and south poles were inexorably moving from their stationary historic locations. The ever-reliable compass points were imperceptibly on the march. Those solar pulses of 1859 had unsettled Earth's invisible magnetic shield, the magnetosphere, as if there was a giant unseen hand sliding a contact lens on a monolithic eyeball, the Earth's surface, to readjust it for comfort. Thus the magnetic north pole was heading south and the south magnetic pole was heading north. Migratory animals were affected by this, especially herds of pilot whales and sperm whales. They relied on their internal magnetic pointers to guide them safely through the deep water channels and bays. The gradually shifting north-south magnetic axis was sometimes just enough out of expected alignment to cause the whales to beach in an unfamiliar bay, which when it drained at low tide, preventing them from returning to safety. The drifting magnetic north and south poles liberated by the Carrington event in 1859 were also causing serpentine deviations in the usually linear patterns of the circumpolar vortices and jet streams. They pulled down unusually intense Arctic and Antarctic oceans of frigid, icy atmosphere to lower levels. Thus positioned, they hung in place week after week, month after interminable month. The climate pundits had set our future as if we were going to be inhabiting an imaginary tropical island, Christmas in heaven. The reality was more like the Second World War, Stalingrad, January 1943, Hitler's doom, the Nazis versus the frozen Soviet front. The climate was unambiguously growing colder, and no one in their right mind could deny it. The practical outcome of this steady and intensifying coldness meant that due to increasing demand, electricity was becoming a luxury that many could no longer afford. For those who could purchase the outlandishly expensive e-cars, they were being subsidised by the average consumer who was charged ever-increasing electricity bills to offset the cost of recharging these cars. Charging one consumed many times the usual domestic daily household usage. Private car ownership was now out of the question for most, and there was almost no private traffic on the roads either, especially after dark. Electricity supply had become more like a rare commodity than an ubiquity it once had been. One of the first effects of this net zero carbon was the over-husbanding of electrical power. This meant that the original voluminous streetlights, once seemingly fit for purpose, were replaced by tiny LEDs which barely illuminated the base of the poles they were attached to. Sounds familiar. Big pools of scary darkness broken only by something that resembled a star in the night sky. They were almost indistinguishable from the rest of the distant firmament. Carlos had just flashed underneath one of these impotent miracles of efficiency when he noticed that his escorts, potential muggers on e-scooters, were gaining on him. And what I'm gathering is this is a future scenario. The time had come for him to crank open the super battery function of his scooter and go for broke. Onwards to the public facility not far ahead, and to hell with his less than optimal charge status for the moment. With a certain grandiosity and accelerating himself clear of his pursuers, Carlos arrived at the public facility easy. He watched as his trackers forlornly slid past, drifting back into the darkness and unlikely to bother him now that he'd reached this bright oasis of light. There were people enjoying the relief of the return of light, whining and dining in the restaurant corner of the public bar, and there was unmistakable magic hum of excited voices, as if to greet him when Carlos pushed open the entrance door to the garnished interior of the public. It was great relief to be in a world of light again. Carlos slumped on one of the benches and ordered a beer, please. He was safe for now. This seems like some sort of hellish future dystopia that she's writing about. Interesting. Okay, Danny Q said, I thought blackface was racist these days. And Ben Muscle Eater said, the voice will help the urban elites and activists with the important things in life, like charcoal tanning lotions. This guy is white, man. Like, what is going on? What has he done? Then we got this. A sad state of affairs. I will never understand why some humans behave like this. There are no excuses. A train station in Dublin. Do you see that? This guy's kicking this like, oh God, what's going on? Why did he do that? This guy looks like he just spat in this lady's face. Or are they just shouting? No, because he's got a mask on. If he's trying to spit in her face, well, no, they're just shouting at them. Well, he shouts at this one so much, watch. Oh, and then he puts his hands on his head. You're the one who did it, mate. You and your little mates here. You half-wits. Then we've got Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Twitter exec explains the medical training that qualified her to censor Harvard and Stanford MDs who questioned the official narrative. Now listen to this.
May I ask of you, where did you go to medical school?
I did not go to medical school.
I'm sorry?
I did not go to medical school.
That's what I thought. Why do you think you or anyone else at Twitter had the medical expertise to censor a doctor's expert opinion?
Our policies regarding COVID were designed to protect individuals. We were seeing...
You guys censored Harvard-educated doctors, Stanford-educated...
Oh, not this again.
Educated doctors that are educated in the best places in the world, and you silence those voices. My next question is, did the U.S. government, oh, excuse me, I have another chart I want to show you, Ms. Gaddy. I have another tweet by someone with a following of a full 18,000 followers. This person put a chart from the CDC on Twitter. It's the CDC's own data, so it's accurate by your standards. and you all labeled this as misleading. You're not a doctor, right, Ms. Gaddy?
No, I'm not.
Okay. What makes you think you or anyone else at Twitter have the medical expertise to censor actual, accurate CDC data?
I'm not familiar with these particular situations.
Yeah, I'm sure you're not.
Vijayagade had
May I ask?
no reason. Like, seriously, there was no reason. They aren't doctors, so how do they know? Because the government told them. Josephine Cashman said 2016 WikiLeaks emails prove that a bunch of Anglo elites, including Podesta and Hillary Clinton, are using activism funded by billionaires to stop Aussie mining, to destroy our economy, to asset strip Australia like they're doing to impoverished Africa. Tanya Plibersek works for them. That's why she's trying to stop the coal mine being built. The famous artist Bertie Rose said, disgust, when a man pretends to be a woman, says he's better at being a woman than women are, fakes having periods and potentially has a fetish for all of this, then I, a woman, am told that I have to publicly affirm, praise and declare my support for this. I express disgust. That disgust isn't coming from a place of hatred. It's from being forced to publicly express myself on it. If I wasn't pressured to publicly declare my devotion and support for this, or face threat of being harassed, attacked or arrested, I might have kept my disgust to myself. Disgust is not the same as hatred. It's a feeling of strong disapproval for something that is unpleasant or offensive. And I happen to agree. In fact, I'm going to retweet that one. Then we got this. Benny Johnson said chaos erupts during State of Union after Joe Biden flat out lies about Republican Social Security plan. MTG calls him out, stands up and yells liar at him on TV.
Instead of making the wealthy pay their fair share, some Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. I'm not saying it's a majority. Let me give you, anybody who doubts it, contact my office. I'll give you a copy. I'll give you a copy of the proposal. That means Congress doesn't vote. Well, I'm glad to see you. No, I tell you, I enjoy conversion. You know, it means if Congress doesn't keep the programs the way they are, they'd go away. Other Republicans say, I'm not saying it's a majority of you. I don't even think it's even a significant, but it's being proposed by individuals. I'm not politely not naming them, but it's being proposed by some of you. Look, folks, the idea is that we're not going to be moved into being threatened to default on the debt if we don't respond. Folks,
yeah, Kamala's doing her bit, standing up and just giving him a standing ovation no matter what he says. Okay, Benny Johnson said, breaking, Joe Biden says one of the classified documents found that his home was from 1974.
I made voluntarily, no one's had to threaten to do anything. Voluntarily open to do anything. Voluntarily open every single aperture I have with the house, offices, everything for them to come and look and spend hours searching my home. Invited them. Nobody. And so, and the best of my knowledge, the kinds of things they picked up are things that from 1974, and stray papers. There may be something else I don't know. But I made voluntarily.
Dear God. So God knows what's at his house anyway. Raymond McCowan said Plibersek and said she cancelled the Clive Palmer mine based on it being 10 kilometres from the shore. She screeched, I did it to protect the reef. The bloody reef is over 100 kilometres from there, but Plibersek does not know that. She's just a dopey woman. And I think that's supposed to be mole. Anyway, it's a name people call people here in Australia. An old, what do you call it? An old smear. Just Val says, so the rig system will now wreck you if you're still afloat after the pandemic measures of the last 3 years. Bankers or politicians? Who will do more damage to our livelihoods? Which ones? Let me see.
That's about right, isn't it?
Well, I think it's fair to say, Carl, that many Australians really are starting to feel the pinch high inflation and high interest rates, but that's precisely what the Reserve Bank is trying to do. They're trying to change our behaviour so that they can pull inflation back. And that is going to be very uncomfortable for many, many people. But until we start to see inflation come back, monetary policy is designed to make things uncomfortable so that we stop spending, slow demand in the economy, bring inflation.
It's the government that needs to stop spending because they're the ones creating it all. Oh, I'm not going for 6 minutes on that. That's just ridiculous. But anyway. Jesse Kelly said, between the China spy balloon and the Nord Stream news, I woke up in a cold sweat this morning asking myself, is our military gay enough to win World War III? Yeah, I'm sure we all do. Back to Australia, come on man, said Julia Gillard had a carbon tax after saying she wouldn't at $25 a tonne. Albo and Bowen also said they wouldn't bring in a carbon tax and now have one charging 3 times Gillard's at $75 a tonne. More disgraceful lies exposed from this atrocious Labor government. They're disgusting. Elon Musk has put, we call it a full stop, but I'm sure in America you call it a period. Why? How long until someone at MSNBC accuses this tweet of being racist? Laverne Spicer said only women can get those. Oh dear. ALX says some of the meltdowns grown men have in Elon's mentions make me question if that's true. Yeah, maybe some men do actually, you know. Yeah, but interesting. I don't know why I even included that. I found it interesting. Why? Just a period. DC Drano said credit due where Nancy Rep Mace just roasted Twitter censor boss Vijaya Gade. Rep Mace disclosed she regrets getting the jab, now has asthma and chronic heart pain. She calls out Twitter for censoring Harvard and Stanford doctors that didn't support it, which I have already shared, but what I'm going to do is just... what else is written here? Is there more? Yeah, she was great in the hearing. She really was. We just heard that. Then we got Liz Churchill. Turkey states they don't want to join the Nazis at NATO. They have a massive earthquake. Harp. I say to the American ambassador from here, I know which journalist you wrote to. Get your dirty hands off Turkey. What steps have you taken and how you want to confuse Turkey? Get your dirty hands. And those grinning masked faces away from Turkey. This is clear here. Wow. Okay, then you've got rage against the vaccine. Russia has sent teams of rescuers with specialised rescue dogs to Turkey. This is despite Turkey aiding the Ukraine military. So Russia's gone in to help Turkey with the earthquake. Big Bird asked, should government be allowed to take your kids away? I see this as highly distressing for little kids. How could they? The child is obviously upset. Okay, and then we have this. Hello Possums. Cronulla race riots, which happened in, I think, in the early 2000s, late 90s. Cronulla race riots, the day Australia died of shame. That's debatable. I was under the impression that it all started a week prior with 4 lifesavers who were bashed by 4 Middle Eastern Muslims. If I'm wrong, I'd love to be corrected. And that was I believe late 90s, early 2000s when Australia had Cronulla race riots. But it was because 4 lifesavers were beaten. Ian Yeager said, Ted Cruz has just called for the IRS to be permanently abolished. Do you agree with Ted Cruz? I do, and I'm in Australia. But I agree for you guys over in the US. I really do. I'd like our taxation office in Australia to be gone. Elon Musk wrote the woke Stasi felt the heat today. I think that was because of the what do you call it? The Congress meetings, committees. Okay. Oh dear, the Gateway pundit said update, teen student who brutally beat 9-year-old girl will now face criminal battery charges. And this is something I seen the other day and it was disgusting. Can't believe children would do this. The aftermath involving a really bad beating of a 9-year-old girl on a school bus last week continues to unfold. One of the instigators responsible for the assault will now face criminal charges, according to Miami-Dade prosecutors. The Gateway pundit previously reported on a horrifying video showing a large 15-year-old black teen and others jumping on the helpless little girl and beating her in the head, neck and face. She had no chance of fending off these monsters. The vicious teens then began assaulting the girl's 10-year-old brother. The mother of the child who was savagely beaten told Local 10 News Miami she reported the violent incident to Coconut Palm K-8 Academy, but the school refused to do anything. Instead, they advised her to withdraw her children from school. I would. If that happened to I would not let those children go back to that school. The mother, who wished to remain anonymous, also revealed that she is pressing charges against Coconut Palm K-8 Academy and pursuing criminal charges against the teens who beat her children. Another mother said there's a huge problem with violence at Coconut Palm K-8 Academy and nothing's being done about it, no matter how many parents complain. This needs to be taken care of right away. Take your kids out of school, I'm telling you now. If the school's that much of a danger, take your children out. Our children are in danger at a school where we are trusting other people to do their jobs, said the mother, who only wanted to be identified as Jenny. That's not justifiable. It doesn't matter what was said. Our kids need to learn that through violence, nothing is resolved. But as Jim Hoff reported, the 15-year-old received a slap on the wrist when the school police officer issued a mere civil citation, which is just a written arrest. The other assailants received a complete free pass. According to the Office of Justice Programs, the primary purpose of a civil citation is to divert first-time low-level juvenile offenders away from the juvenile justice system at the earliest stage of the process. The program is intended to limit eligible youth's contact with the system and reduce potential stigma associated with an arrest record. The prosecutors seem to have realised the school policeman erred and will now hold at least one of the perpetrators accountable. The footage clearly shows that this beating was far more serious than a simple student altercation, Miami-Dade State Attorney Catherine Fernandez-Rundle said in a news release. We believe that based on the evidence and the circumstances, the use of a civil citation was incompatible with the level of violence displayed by the 15-year-old against his much younger and much smaller victim. Fernandez-Rundle said, as a result, we have filed criminal battery charges with our juvenile courts. So they should. If you don't hold them to account, they're going to keep doing it. And I would honestly just take my children out of school. Okay, hello possums. I think this is a bit of a funny one, I'm not sure. A young boy at a private school in Melbourne identifies himself as a dog. He barked at a young girl and she meowed back. Teacher was informed. She told the young girl, you cannot do that because you have not identified yourself as a cat. We are now officially living in the land of madness. Is this real? I mean, did that really happen? I thought it was a joke. But it actually could be real. My goodness. Okay, guys, I'm going to leave it there for today. I've still got a little couple more, but they can wait till tomorrow when I do my live stream. It is Friday, isn't it? Yep, I lost track of the time because the internet went out. Okay, there you go. I didn't know what day it was. Okay, guys, I'll see you tomorrow. I hope you have a good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are, and I'll talk to you soon. Okay, guys, bye.